Hey, how are you? This is the part of the video where I usually do a short intro and give commentary or rave reviews to some gaming related story, but today's a little different. Because while I've had a lot of positive things to say about some games and consoles being released in 2025, things are far from perfect. Expensive games, console price increases, and studio layoffs plague the gaming world. And there's a lot of negative things going on that I really just want to talk about. So, hi, I'm Matt. I like to talk about video games, pop culture, and pretty much anything else that piques my interest. Now, I know that pretty much all of my videos have really been centered around Nintendo, but I'm not a complete Nintendo shill. I've actually owned and loved a lot of Xbox and PlayStation consoles, including the ones that are in this current generation. And I've loved playing on all of these consoles. So this video comes from a place of frustration. Frustration about the current state of gaming, and frustration that it just seems like there's no going back to the way that gaming used to be. Now, don't get it twisted. I think that there's a lot that can be enjoyed about this generation of gaming. So many games can be seen as graphical showcases of what these consoles are capable of. And there seems to really be a larger push for unique indie developers. But we can't ignore the fact that not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Gaming in 2025 is easier than ever to get into, but it's also as expensive as ever to keep up with. I try not to be too negative in my videos. I really try to keep things light, but I also try to keep things honest. And this is a conversation that needs to happen, and it's a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now. So let's take some time today to talk a little bit about the current state of gaming in 2025. Starting with Xbox. Back in 2001, Microsoft released their new gaming console, the Xbox, and while it didn't even come close to the sales of the PlayStation 2, it was a great start and clearly had a lot of room to grow and improve. And just a few years later, they did just that, releasing the Xbox 360 in 2005. It was an immediate success and made the Xbox a legitimate rival for PlayStation and Nintendo. But when the Xbox One was unveiled, it stirred up a lot of controversy, such as requiring users to always be connected to the internet, restrictions on used games, and focusing more on making the Xbox One an entertainment box over a traditional console. These decisions really impacted how consumers viewed the Xbox brand, resulting in the PlayStation 4 outselling the Xbox One by a large margin. And now the PlayStation 5 is doing the same thing over the Xbox Series consoles. While a lot of people consider Xbox to essentially be a dying brand, there is still plenty of die-hard Xbox fans. But Microsoft's recent decisions have really made it difficult to continue to be one. Microsoft's decision to recently lay off around 9,000 employees and close multiple game studios have left a bad taste in consumers' mouths. These layoffs and closures have had a rippling effect across the industry and have even led to game cancellations like Perfect Dark, a game that they proudly showed off in their showcase of June 2024, only to completely cancel it and close the developer studio barely over a year later. If a major franchise like Perfect Dark can be canceled, nothing is safe. It makes people less confident in the games that Xbox teases and shows off because, who knows, they could pull the plug on those too. But this doesn't stop Microsoft from buying up companies left and right. Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, who knows what else. Why should we continue to be excited about these studio acquisitions when there is now a constant threat that Xbox can just close them at the drop of a hat? Now, maybe Xbox is struggling as far as console sales go, but they're doing just fine bringing in revenue, thanks to Game Pass. When Game Pass originally started, it was seemingly a great idea, allowing people to gain access to over 100 games for only $10 a month. But now it's $30 a month, and while there are a lot more games to play, roughly around 500, does anyone actually have time to play that many games? Now, Xbox does still offer a $10 a month version called Game Pass Core, but that only gives you access to around 50 games. Clearly, our money does not get us as far in 2025 as it did in 2017. Game Pass is still Xbox's current success story, but honestly, that's the only success that they've had. with Xbox starting to put their games on multiple platforms, with franchises like Gears of War coming to PlayStation. But with the service having over 500 million monthly active users and bringing in nearly $5 billion a year, Xbox just doesn't care about convincing customers to buy an Xbox anymore. They just need them to buy into Game Pass. Let's move on to PlayStation. PlayStation has more or less always been a success from pretty much straight out of the gate. The PlayStation 1 sold around 102 million consoles, while Nintendo, the well-established company, was only able to sell around 33 million Nintendo 64s. The PlayStation 2 sold 155 million consoles, becoming the best-selling console of all time. And even the PlayStation 3, while initially criticized for its high price point, still sold well, passing the Xbox 360 and selling 87 million consoles. A lot of this originally came down to better third-party support, but PlayStation was also well known for their incredible first-party titles. And while that's still true in 2025, PlayStation has really had such a heavy focus on games as a service. Look, I get it, it's a business model that just constantly brings in revenue. But for as many of these live service games that PlayStation has announced, a large majority of these never even saw the light of day, or just outright got canceled or shut down, such as Concord. Sony has had a lack of success in this area, with the exception of maybe Helldivers 2. But these games take so long to develop and they're not a guaranteed success, so all of that time feels like it's wasted. Think about all the incredible first-party single-player experiences we could have had if PlayStation wasn't worried about trying to have the next Fortnite. Also, is there even a point in buying a PlayStation 5? I mean, look at what our first-party offerings are for 2025. Ghosts of Yotei and Last Soul Aside. That's it. And Last Soul Aside isn't even a PlayStation 5 exclusive. On top of that, most PlayStation games have been one by one making their way to other platforms, mostly PC. So why buy a PS5 or a PS5 Pro for these games when I can just wait a few months for them to release on Steam? All of this clearly points to PlayStation wanting to cash in on easy profits, and I get it, they're a business after all. But is this also a sign that Sony is struggling to rely solely on first-party games for success? Probably not. Like I said, pretty much everything that Sony has released under the PlayStation brand has more or less been a success. So they clearly have the money to invest in these games, but they choose to try to increase profits instead of giving customers high-quality first-party titles. Now, we talk a lot about Nintendo on this channel, and honestly, it just comes down to the fact that I'm passionate and incredibly interested in what they are doing. But that doesn't make them free from criticism. Nintendo's consoles, since the NES, have always had a fanbase that enjoys collecting as many games as they could, all the way up to the Nintendo Switch, myself included. But with the Switch 2, it feels like there's a pretty heavy shift towards digital distribution, which really alienates a significant portion of Nintendo's fanbase, particularly those who prefer physical copies of games, like myself. The rise of digital-only game codes and the high cost of physical cartridges, especially the 64GB ones required for the Switch 2, have resulted in higher prices for physical games and fewer third-party titles. But high file sizes and high prices for cartridges isn't really something Nintendo has to worry about with their first-party offerings. Yet, we're still seeing price increases. Look, I don't love that games are $70, but that's just the norm in 2025, love it or hate it. Nintendo first released a game at that price point in 2023 with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. They justified this price, saying it's due to the large file size and for the amount of content that's in the game, and said that the $70 price point moving forward would be based on what the game had to offer. But take a look at just 2 years later. Donkey Kong Bonanza, a $70 game. Kirby Air Riders, a $70 game. Mario Tennis Fever, a $70 game. Hyrule Warriors, Metroid Prime 4, all $70 games. And that's not even the worst of it. Mario Kart World, the big game that launched with the system, was $80. And as much as I love that game and think it could eventually be worth that price, it is not right now. And don't even get me started on these Switch 2 edition games, because if you don't have the base game and want to buy it specifically for the Switch 2, it's also $80. I love Nintendo, and I love their games. But do you really mean to tell me that all of these games are priced at $70 plus because Nintendo thinks that they're worth it? Or is this just a classic case of doing something because you know that you can get away with it? Mario Kart for $80? Yeah, it may be the first game to launch at that price point, but it's Mario Kart. The fans will pay for it. The Virtual Boy headset costing $100? It's Nintendo. The fans will buy it. But keep in mind that they're already paying for the online service that it's needed for. Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 for $70, when the original games were $20 each? But it's Mario Galaxy 2 that hasn't been available since the Wii, so the fans will pay that price. Nintendo is just seeing how much that they can get away with doing because, let's be real, the hardcore fans will buy into anything Nintendo puts out. They can sell a huge steaming pile of Mario's fresh and the fans would buy it. And damn it, I would have it right up on my shelf on display. Yeah, I'm a part of the problem. I bought Mario Kart World, albeit with the Switch 2 bundle, but if that wasn't an option, I probably would have shelved out the $80 to buy it. I'm buying Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, even though it's $70 for games that were released over 10 years ago. And I'm even considering buying the Virtual Boy headset, even though I am well aware that I'm being ripped off. And guess what? Most diehard Nintendo fans like me are doing the same thing that I am, trying to wrap my brain around a justification for all of this. Look, I do think some games are actually worth $70. I think Donkey Kong Bonanza is easily worth that price, without question. It's a fantastic game, and like I've said multiple times over and over again at this point, it should be in the conversation for Game of the Year. But what about that $20 DLC? Does that then make this a $90 game? Is it worth $90 to get the full DK experience? Don't get me wrong, I think that there's a real argument to be made that gaming in 2025 is more accessible than it ever has been in previous generations. Free-to-play games, cross-play, and cross-platform titles all make gaming a lot more approachable. And with so many modern games coming out on pretty much any console, and even smartphones, it makes gaining access to all of these games easier than ever. But with some of these pros, there seems to be cons. For every free-to-play game, there's a microtransaction. For every cross-platform title, there's some new online account that needs to be made, or a new launcher that you need to download. And we didn't even get into the changing market conditions that have caused companies to raise their prices on their consoles. When I was a kid, and even as a teenager, console prices went down the further into a generation you got, not up. Blame it on tariffs, blame it on wanting more money, I don't care. A Nintendo Switch should not be $350 to $400. An Xbox Series X should not be $650. A PlayStation 5 Pro should not be $750. And I definitely shouldn't have to be paying for an extra $30 to get a stand and another $80 to just get a disc drive to play the physical games on. And with each of these companies, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, there seems to be a common reason for why the gaming industry just seems to be heading in the wrong direction. Corporate greed. Look, I love Nintendo as a company. I love their games, and I get excited for just about every announcement that they make. And I love PlayStation, and I love Xbox. I'm just a big fan of gaming. But let me be clear, these companies are not your friends. Yeah, they do a lot to make their games feel worth it. They throw in the extra details and can sometimes go the extra mile to make their games feel special. But they're also businesses, and all of this is just business. Down to the high prices, down to the microtransactions and live service games, and down to the studio layoffs. That's just how it is. And look, I get it. I don't love it. I don't even like it. But that's just the reality that we're living in. Games cost money to make, a lot of money, so prices will go up. These companies have to find some way to get their money back. But when these games come out half-baked, half-finished, full of bugs and glitches, but still have a fully functioning digital store to make you buy more, that's not right. That's not how it is. It's not how it should be. There's so much about gaming that I love in 2025, but we have to acknowledge that something here is broken. Something needs to be fixed. Something needs to change. Does that mean a full video game crash? I hope not. That'll just lead to more studio closures and companies trying to make up for their lost profits with, you guessed, more microtransactions. I don't know how we fix it. I don't. And maybe we can't. Maybe this is just what gaming is now. It's not something that you can pick up as a hobby, it's a lifestyle. And while a lot of people have said that for years, I don't think that they ever thought it would get this expensive to continue to buy games from the companies that you really like. At the end of the day, the only thing that we can do is vote with our wallets. Buy what excites you, buy what inspires you, buy what you support, buy what you think is right, and buy what you truly think is worth the price tag. I bought 2 of them. But tell me, how do you feel about the current state of gaming in 2025? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please give it a like, and be sure to follow me on all of these social media platforms. But whatever you do, I just want to thank you for watching this video. This topic was something I'm really passionate about, and that's something I really try to carry forward with all of my videos. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell to keep up to date on all of my latest videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.